You have now entered a community of impact engineers. Welcome to the BSL Speaks podcast with your host, Brian St. Louis. Here, we forge the path of leadership by empowering young voices and nurturing the wisdom of seasoned pioneers. Join us as we bridge the gap between generations, blending the fresh perspectives of emerging leaders with the tried and true insights of those who've paved the way. Ready to embrace radical empathy and unlock the boundless potential in our youth? This platform is committed to empowering young visionaries and refining our leadership in homes, communities, schools, and workplaces. Our journey is about more than just personal growth. This is about elevating humanity, one inspired leader at a time.
What's going on, everyone? It's your host, Brian St. Louis, and with us today, we have Austin Johnson. He is the Executive Director of Ghana Make a Difference, or as they call it, GMAD. Their vision is to see every child in Ghana raised in a family, and they shelter children who have been rescued from forced labor trafficking, abandonment, or who have special needs until they are able to reintegrate them with their families or successfully place them somewhere else on the path to self-reliance. When I look at the work that is being done within Ghana Make a Difference, it is truly one that exhilarates. I had the opportunity to meet up with Austin through our conversations, and the energy is there. And so I'm really excited to have Austin with us today. Austin, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Brian, dude, I'm happy to be here, and it's an honor, man. So thanks for the invite.
Man, absolutely. Absolutely. It's when I see great things that are happening in the world, we're just excited to bring on individuals who see life bigger than themselves, and want to truly make a difference. And so we definitely wanted to make sure that you came on to the show. How are you doing today? Just how are you feeling? What's going on in life? Just how are you, Austin?
Thanks for asking. I'm doing good. It's funny. I got back from Ghana just a few days ago. And so I think now I'm just over the jet lag and normal again, but life is good. Thank you.
Good, man. That's good. So we're going to get a very great perspective since you just came on from your trip to Ghana. So I'm looking forward to this. Where are you currently based for most of the work that you do?
I am the only domestic employee of Ghana Make a Difference. The only one on the payroll full time. And so it's anywhere my laptop is, if I'm going to be honest. we have like 40 employees over in Ghana, but I'm the only domestic one here.
That's awesome.
So I'm here in Boise, Idaho, to answer your question.
There you go.
Boise, Idaho, in front of my laptop.
I love it, man. I love it. Can you tell us why? And I know there's going to be some focus on this in general, but why is it that you make sure that you have so much more staff there rather than having staff from all over the world or having them a lot more remote, making sure that you have staff that are situated where they are?
Yeah, I mean, good question. So they do the real work. I mainly am doing fundraising and I'm helping with these medical missions. I'm not medical. But I'm helping manage things here on this side of the ocean. And when I go over there, they just got it down. And so we hire folks who are right there in Ghana. They're Ghanaian. Probably a third of our staff are refugees from those surrounding countries, like Sierra Leone and Liberia and Ivory Coast. And so it's cool just to, they are more than capable of doing everything themselves over there and helping these kids. So
I bet, man, that's awesome. Can you tell us how this whole journey started to creating GMAD, to getting yourself in that predicament where you saw that this needed to happen in Ghana specifically? How did this one guy from Boise, Idaho come through to Ghana in order for us to make it, for you all to make a difference? What's the story there?
I'm in deep, and I'm probably going to end up telling you more than you want to know, but I'm just going to take a stab at it anyway.
Go ahead, man. I'm looking forward to it.
So from the beginning here, most would have considered me a junior in college because I had enough credits to be a junior or senior.
Wow.
But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was dating and I wasn't making progress with school or dating, if I'm going to be painfully honest with myself.
Fair enough.
So each night I would just kind of ponder and think about life and pray. And after a few months of this, as I try to align what I'm doing with maybe something God wants me to do, I heard just words in my head. It said, Austin, drop out of school and go to Africa. And just a bit of background, I'd never wanted to go to Africa before in my life. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to do that for sure. Rooming with my best friends, and I was comfortable. And then the next night, it was the same words just in my head, drop out of school and go to Africa. And it just these words just kind of stuck with me for a couple weeks until I built up the courage, sold my housing contract, dropped out of my college courses, and I took back my tuition money and used it for flights to Africa.
My goodness.
Anyway, month passed. I'm on this plane to Ghana, Africa. I'm beating myself up, feeling like I should be in school. I should be progressing in life. And here I just spent all my money to go to Africa. And the very next day, this cute girl from Idaho showed up and we became fast friends. And I ended up marrying her. And so we got married about a year later.
Wow.
And it was her parents that were looking to adopt, and they adopted out of the same children's home that I met Arianne, my wife, at. And when they came over, they saw abandoned kids in the taxi parks, and they visited a few different children's homes and just felt like we can help out. So they started Gone to Make a Difference. And my wife and I, we just always had this sideline view of like this good work her parents were doing, and they built the children's home. And I mean, it was cool. We would save up our pennies, and in between semesters, we would like find the cheapest flight over to Ghana and go help her parents out for a few weeks and then fly home. And like, these were the highlights of my year. We're going and just being a part of this work they were starting.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, fast forward 5 years or so, and I'm in the construction industry, and I have this corner office, and life is good. And then I heard the same familiar voice in my head. I mean, it wasn't mine, and it said, "You need to help your in-laws." So I got a master's degree at Notre Dame in nonprofit work, and they hired me the day I graduated. And so that was about 5 years ago. I've been working. So you could say my in-laws are my bosses.
Yeah, there you go.
They're on the board. But I report to the board, and
you report to your in-laws, man. That's what.
And it's been a good work. So I've always had this sideline view for 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
But really, it's just beneficial this last 5 years that I've been working full time. So
fully entrenched into the work. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
But can you talk a little bit about, and you may know a bit about this perspective. You may not know the whole story because this is more so of their story, but your in-laws went from adopting these children to now creating GMAD. What was the story between that point right there? Because that's large with how individuals choose. Because I've heard so many people who say, you know what, I want to adopt, and they adopt children from different parts of the world. But we don't hear a lot of people who say, I'm going to help to create a system where these children are being fostered, they're being helped, taken out of that enslavement or taken out of that forced labor and the trafficking. That takes an extra level of dedication. So can you tell us a little bit about how that happened there with GMAD?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Brian. And I'm happy you asked it because you're right. That's a big step from point A to point B. You know, I've had the privilege of having these, of just hearing, you know, how it started and what was on their mind and everything, just through these dinner conversations we'd have and living room conversations. And so I knew they thought, well, we saw a need and we want our kids who are adopting to be proud of their country of origin, and so it'd be cool to kind of have this tie back to Ghana. I remember hearing like those types of conversations. And then when it started, there was this children's home in Kasawa, and it didn't have a bathroom. And diseases were starting to go around, because of the unsanitary conditions, and they were really just going potty in this pit. And so that's like where it started. That's where Gonna Make a Difference started, is I thought, well, we can help these guys with the bathroom, and that's very manageable, and we can hire a few people and help them and work, and they'll have a bathroom. And that's what we did. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then a few months later, we were building our own children's home, and now we've been at it for over a decade.
Wow, man. I mean, you talk about one idea that turns into a massive idea, right? You talked about that snowball effect. And I think those are those moments that we have to be willing to step into what we're called to do, right? And when those ideas come, we don't run away from it or shy away from it. Because how did it feel for you? If you don't mind jumping into this a little bit more, how did it feel for you dropping out of college or university to even make that decision? Because I don't know how many of us in this world would say, hey, you know what, I'm going to leave college to go all the way to Ghana. What was it like for you at that moment?
I was just trying to follow my heart. And that sounds really Disney to me, but it felt right, and so that gave me some confidence. Is I know how I think and how I act, and this just felt different. I thought, oh, I got to follow this. But to be honest, I remember having a little talk with my mom, because my mom's like, "You're dropping out of college," and I'm like, "Yep." And she's like, "You're going to Africa?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." "What are you gonna do there?" I don't know. I'm gonna help. I don't know. I didn't really have much of a plan thought out, but I remember just looking at her, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure my mom thinks I'm an idiot, and I'm not so sure she's wrong. So, there was some doubt, and I was worried. I made friends on the plane on the way there, and they said, "What are you doing?" And I remember I was like, I don't know. But I know I got to go this direction. So anyway, I don't know that's kind of murky. I don't know that makes sense, but those were some of my feelings and thoughts as I was heading out there that first time.
I mean, it definitely, I hear you, right? Because as you're talking about that, sometimes you're a man of faith. And so sometimes when we get that directive from God, it's like, man, we got to move. I don't know what this is supposed to look like, but I got to do something out of this, right?
Right.
And clearly in your story, that has turned into all that we're seeing today. And
hindsight is cool, huh? Because it's so validating. And I'm like, Ghana's been good. I found my wife, a brother and sister-in-law, and a career.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. But what about it for you made you want to get that degree? And what was the degree in as well when you went to Notre Dame? Because a lot of people may say to themselves, hey, you know what? I have the connection. I could, my in-laws are the ones that are there to work the program. I don't have to work harder to try to prove myself in a sense. But you said, man, I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to get my university degree. I'm going to get my master's degree. So I'm even more prepared. What was that motivation or that discipline that helped you to really tie that in so that you can be the best executive director for the program?
Yeah, thank you. I am extremely dyslexic. And so it was a big decision. I remember I don't know that I really want to go do more tests in school. And you're right. I think they would have hired me. I was very willing and I wanted to help, but I didn't feel competent. I didn't feel like I knew the nonprofit world or strategy or, I just thought there was a lot I could learn. And so that was my main motivation was I want to bring something to the table.
Yeah.
And these guys are experts. So the master's degree I got was an executive master's program in nonprofit administration.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to learn from some pretty neat professors there.
That's awesome.
And it was kind of cool because I went in with this gonna make a difference mindset. And
That's
so
right.
every project I did, I was able to do like,
That's right.
we're gonna make a difference. And I kind of came out with a game plan, like, this is how I want to see the next few years. And so it was helpful.
What you did there, I think, is to a degree that, that level of genius, because so many people, they go into university, they go into college, they go even sometimes into their master's degree, have no idea what they really want to do, right? They don't have that experience. They don't have that feeling. They don't have that sense of true desire in the field that they're working through. But you were able to have that experience in Ghana. Getting your master's degree was that extra supplementation to the work that you're going to do. So again, like you said, all your perspective was on GMAT. How can I make this happen for GMAT? And I think that there's a lot of lessons that we can take from that, especially if we have young listeners that are in right now. Know why you're doing what you're doing. And a lot of times that will help you to propel your future and align those with the visions and the mission that you want to create. Because I think what you did right there, you never want to get to a place where you lose that motivation, where you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. That always helps you to stay on track, right?
Yeah, no. And what you kind of described was my bachelor's degree, right? I felt like I didn't really have much. And it was okay. And I got, and there are benefits from that. But
for sure,
my master's degree, that's definitely the way to go if you can do it. I mean, having this vision in mind, that was cool.
I love that, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out.
Why don't you break down, what is it that Gotta Make a Difference is doing specifically? We know that they're working with the kids. We know that there's programs that are being affiliated in order for them to create a better future for them, right? We're pulling them out of forced labor. There's rescue missions, there's special needs, and ultimately, right, as it states, talks about the reintegration of the family. What are the programs specifically that is happening within GMAT, and how is it working to make sure that they're having that better future for these kids?
Yeah. So we've learned that it's impossible to look at a child in their vulnerable situation without like seeing their family. Like it's just impossible because that's kind of how they got in a vulnerable spot. And so
that's right.
It's been our experience over there in almost every case. Why is this child vulnerable? Oh, it's because their parents had like a medical tragedy happen. Like dad broke his arm. He's unable to go to work.
That's right. Yeah.
Or that's scenario one. Scenario two is just this lack of education. Mm-hmm. And so that brings us to like our three focus areas. We have our children's shelter, and then we have medical care, and then education. Those are our three focus areas. So we have a school on site. We have a medical clinic on site. Like I just got home from this medical mission. We do 4 of those a year. And our hope, and I mean, it's super effective, is that we keep kids and their families, when someone has a big hernia or a broken limb or something, we can repair that. We bring over surgeons, we repair it, and then they can just keep going to work, and life goes on because we step in. So our hope is that we're keeping those families together, and same with our educational focus area. But at the children's home, at any given time, we have 70 to 80 kids that we're looking over. And you can't have a children's home, a children's shelter without social workers there. And so we hire 3 full-time social workers who, we have a few different partners there within the country. Our number one partner is just the Department of Social Welfare there in Ghana. We work closely with them. And our social workers gather information off each kid. And we sometimes have to do investigative work. And, I could go into this. This could be a whole nother podcast, but basically we're finding their families.
Yeah.
And a lot of times culturally, if their parents are deceased, like an aunt will step to the plate and be like, I'll take this kid. And we do follow-up visits and, and just make sure they're secure. So we've placed about 300 kids back in their families.
That's amazing, man.
And they're doing good,
Wow, man. I mean, when you look at that, you know that there are impacts that are being made. And I love the fact that you work so tirelessly with keeping the family structure in some way, shape, or form, and trying to find a way to reconnect or to make sure that the bridge is always there. What was it for you? Because you just came back, you said just a couple of days ago, so you still a little jet lagged. What was it for you that in this past time may have been different or may have impacted you just a little bit differently comparatively to other times that you've been to Ghana or you've done the work that was there?
I love just sitting on the steps, and the progression is just palpable. Like you can just feel it. I mean, some of the kids who are just new at the children's shelter, this is their first time where adults around them all have their best interest in mind, and you can kind of see the fear in their eyes. And just in the 1 week, or 10 days that I was there, a couple of these new kids, there's a very big difference from the day one when we got there and when we were leaving for the airport. Just they settle in, and it's pretty cool to watch because they open up to the social workers we have, and some of the kids that have been there longer. It was fun for me this time just to see what peacemakers they were. I mean, they in the large part, it's these kids who are setting the tone of the children's home, and I can't tell you how many. Like kids are fighting over something.
Yeah.
And these older kids, I'm watching them and I'm thinking, what's going to happen here? Are they going to like assert their dominance or something, or, take the toy that they're fighting over and put it up on a high shelf? I'm watching them.
Yeah.
And they are so kind, they put their hand gently on one kid's shoulder and they start talking in Twi, and I don't know, and I'm just watching from a distance, and it just diffuses the whole situation. Wow. The kids go off and play. And like, I just probably saw that more than a dozen times, and I was busy. And so I think that was my main takeaway this time. It was fun to see kids helping kids. And I mean, we have plenty of adults and everything there and their staff, but it was fun to see the progression there.
You said something that really hit my heart. You said that this is the first time that they're in a room where all the adults have their best interest. And I've been working with kids for years, man, over a decade, been able to really pour into youth and society. And I've seen how an adult could change the life of a child. I think it was Josh Shipp that says, it takes one adult to change the trajectory of a child's life. And man, to hear that, it gives me joy, but it also, pains us knowing that it takes that much in order for them to have that type of experience. But then when you tell me now that you see that empathetic side, for instance, you see these children who are older, who could have their dominance, are still showing that care, that guidance, that empathy towards the little children. Where do you feel as though they learned that, or where do you feel as though they were able to grasp that concept of empathy, where in most of their lives they haven't been able to see that level of care, dedication, or empathy towards them?
So, as he mentioned in the intro, most of these kids come from labor trafficking in the fishing industry in particular. So most of them have slave masters when they're rescued. I read their files when they come in, and you can see like the scarring from the paddle. And it's pretty brutal. Like, I don't think I could really live a day in their shoes. And then how are they so kind? I mean, that's a good question. I think a lot of it comes down to just the staff that we have at Gonna Make a Difference. And my in-laws, as they started it, they set some rules in place. So for instance, one example. In Ghana, you go to pretty much any school, and caning is a disciplinary measure, and it's very common in Ghana, kind of probably like America was 100 years ago. You're late, you get caned. You're not wearing the dress code, you get caned, whatever. Well, they said right out of the gates, this will be a no caning zone. We're not going to discipline that way. We're just going to sit with the child and help them out and help them work through these big feelings they're having. And that's made a huge difference, because there's no fear within the walls of Ghana make a difference. Kids are all of a sudden being fed all the meals they need. They're being watched after. They can even play after school and go to school. All these things are like first time things for them. And I think they just ease right into that, and kindness is just natural when that's all they're being shown is kindness, So I think there's a few factors to that answer, but I think a lot of it's just the environment that we've created there going to make a difference.
I love that, man. And for me, when I hear that really is a testament to the work that is being done. I gotta make the difference. And I'll say this because I do believe that when it comes to how individuals are within the workforce, right? Staff, they get their directive from the higher ups. They get their directives from leaders, from the founders, and so ultimately to know that from top to bottom, and I know we're not looking at it in that sense of like certain people are at certain levels, but at the end of the day, when you have leadership, it's important for us to show that leadership properly, and so individuals can follow through with proper leadership, and so it shows that the leadership at GMAT is proper. They're taking the initiatives, they're making things work in order for programming for these kids to feel amazing, to feel wanted, to feel safe. I think that was the key takeaway that you said. A lot of these kids feel safe coming into this. And so there's so much, as you said, that could be taken from this, man. But just the more I hear about what you're doing, the more I'm just enthralled by the work. I need to find a way to get out there, man.
I'll invite you the next time I go. Yeah, I'll send an invite your way.
Man, please. Seriously, man. Serious. Because I think I told you this from before, but I think that's one of the things that I want to do with Madcasters is have an opportunity to also travel and see the difference that is being made in the lives of people through the organizations that I bring onto the podcast. And so, man, yeah, please let me know. I'll make a way. I'll figure something out so that we can make this happen, man.
If I could share just another story or two. So I shared what was real, but it was kind of a sad thing, with the paddles, and you can see the scars visually on these kids that come in, and that they've been abused. Well, there's been a few really cool stories that have come out of these kids have very unique skill set in the fishing industry. Well, a lot of them had water trauma. And our head social worker, his name's Solomon, he just kind of got thinking, I'm going to find a swimming pool, which aren't common in Ghana. They're not very common. But anyway, he finds this private school that's only like 5 miles away. And he works out a deal with them and says, can I just bring these kids by to just have fun in your pool, just swim, see what happens? Cool. He brings these kids by, wondering how they're going to react. If they're going to act scared or whatever, and they just have a blast. And this school has a water polo program. Man. So some of these kids have now been playing water polo, and they just kick butt. They like,
that's amazing.
They're going to these tournaments and they're doing well. And like just years ago, they were slaves. And then
that's awesome, man.
I got to go on a little tour of some of the improvements at the home because I hadn't been there, in several months. And we got these new fish ponds that we've built down at the bottom. We have tilapia and catfish in there, and we eat some of it. And, the kids eat it. Cooks prepare it, just to be clear. But I say, how did you get the fish? How do you get the fish? Did you buy it? And their face just lit up. And they're like, we caught it. And I'm like, what do you mean you caught it?
Hey.
My director pulls out his phone and he just starts flipping through these pictures and they had found an old mosquito
That's
net.
amazing.
And they went down, and he said, I'm talking to the director, and he said, Austin, you should have seen it. These guys were amazing. And I guess they were just grabbing fish with their hands and tricking the fish into the net. And he's like, we just got, and the kids are telling me, and like like fish stories, you're like holding up the hands and how big the fish were. Here are these kids who are like former slaves, like, Austin, the fish is this big. I caught him with my hand. And I mean, it was just like pure joy to see, here's this evidence of their really rough past. And now I'm looking at them, and their future is just bright. I mean, it's blinding. You're looking at these kids smiling, and they're getting this education, and they're safe, and they're thriving. And it's just cool. Like, it just sent, right? Even right now talking about it, it just sends like shivers up my spine, like goosebumps, because it's just cool. Like, any kid, can do anything if you put the right opportunities in front of them. And that's all it is. It's not even like these huge opportunities. It's like, here's a pool.
Love that, man.
Here's a pond with some fish in it.
Yeah. Just a little pond. Wow, man.
So, and I could go on and on. They learn on tablets and laptops now. It's very unique for rural Ghana. And these kids just take to it. And after a couple months of this curriculum, they're sending Bluetooth messages to each other in English in rural Ghana. I mean, the kids are amazing. They impress me. They're some of my heroes. And
I love that, man. Is the program primarily in English as well, or?
Yeah, it's the national language. No, so
of course.
No, but you're right. Like, these kids don't know English when they're rescued, but that's like the common language. So it usually takes them about 6 months or so, but that's the common language among everyone that want to make a difference is English.
That makes sense. That works.
Yeah,
that works. Man, I don't know, man. I just listening to your story, listening to what is being done. My heart is full. I'll say that my heart is full, and I want to see the continuation of Ghana make a difference. How can people come in and volunteer to help, to donate? What can they do? We just want to make sure that's clear for those who
good question. So our website's GhanaMakeADifference.org, Ghana like the country, GHANA. And we do 4 different medical missions a year. One's dental, one's eye, and 2 of them are surgical. And then we invite families and individuals to volunteer there year round and just help. There's plenty to do, a lot of tutoring. When people ask and say, oh, I'm not really the type to like go to Africa and help, I say, that's okay. Almost half of everything we do in Ghana at Ghana Make a Difference is funded by what we call navigators, a monthly donor. Like, the average monthly donor for us is giving between $10 and $20 a month, and we're able to do just a ton with it over there. And we have a 100% giving model. So whether someone donates $1 or $1,000, it's all going to Ghana Make a Difference over in Ghana. So I say, sign up to be a monthly donor, donate $10. Just let's do it together.
Yeah, I'm going to be a monthly donor. I'm definitely going to make that happen myself now.
You're
no question about that. And if anyone is listening, please make sure you become a monthly donor. Start listening out and helping out to what's happening and Ghana Make a Difference. Well, Austin, again, as I mentioned, this has been, and to be honest, this is probably one of my favorite interactions that I've had with a guest, and just being able to really get to understand what's going on with GMAD and understand your heart behind it, and finding a way to just connect so we can continue to make a difference. Because I think, and maybe it's because of my bias, but I love things that deal with youth work and helping children to have better futures. So that's probably why a lot of it, I was just like, man, I love every bit of what you're all doing. But thank you so much for, not even just for coming onto the podcast, but thank you so much for listening to the voice of God and doing what is important in the world and making those risks, taking those chances when you were at a young age and having the courage to step out and do the work that needs to be done. You, your family, and all those who are involved with this. So thank you all so much for the work that is being done to make a difference through Ghana Make a Difference.
Oh, geez. Thanks, Brian. I just, again, thank you for having me on. I've just been delighted being here, being your guest. So I want to thank you for that. This has been a cool podcast, listening to your episodes and seeing what you're doing, just putting the spotlight on the good things that are happening in this world. So thank you.
Glad I'm able to spotlight people like you, man. So thank you again, Austin. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to continued ventures.
Yeah. Hey, you're welcome. I hope our paths cross soon.
100%. 100%. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. See you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of BSL Speaks podcast. Your dedication to this journey is greatly appreciated, and I invite you to continue this journey with us on your favorite podcast platform. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and many other podcast sites. Simply search for BSL Speaks to subscribe and stay updated on all our latest episodes, resources, and programs. Your support means the world to us, and we're excited to have you join our community. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep engineering impact in all that you do. Until next time.